Have you ever posted something online and obsessively check it right after to see how much engagement you get? And it feels really good when you get a ton of engagement, and then when you don't, it sucks. That's what seeking validation looks like. And it's something that I've struggled with. The reason that seeking validation is bad is because your emotions, your self-worth, confidence, things like that are controlled by external factors. When you get that validation, you feel good about yourself. It's almost like a high. And then when you don't, you feel the opposite. And all of that isn't coming from within. So that's what I want to talk about today. In today's video, I will be going over what seeking validation looks like, so the behaviors to look out for, the things that you can do to self-reflect, and how to reframe your thoughts around it. I have been on social media for the last 4 years, and I started out modeling and posting all my photos. What I noticed right away was that when I would post photos, I would get a lot of likes and compliments, and I'm being told I'm beautiful all the time. I remember it felt really good in the beginning. It definitely helped boost my self-esteem because so many people were telling me that I was beautiful. And I've recently started to realize that all the external validation that I get online, I need to figure out a way for myself on how to kind of like separate it, because I'm more than just some likes on the internet. I'm more than just a bunch of compliments on the internet. You know, for me going along this journey, I kind of worry that one day, I don't know how long I'm going to do it for. I don't know what it feels like to stop getting that validation, because it's been very consistent for me and I've gotten used to it. And I don't know how I will feel if it all goes away one day. So the first thing we want to do is really understand what behaviors are exhibited when somebody is seeking validation. So let's go into ChatGPT and figure that out with the AI. The prompt that I put into ChatGPT is to ask it to explain to me how to identify if a content creator is seeking validation from external compliments and likes on content, and to give an explanation which includes a real life example. The behavior of what seeking validation looks like is constant monitoring of metrics. So the behavior is basically regularly checking for likes, comments, shares, follower count, and that is done immediately after posting. The thought pattern somebody might have is that believing that the number of interactions defines the value of the content or somebody's worth. So real life example here from Instagram Explorer. The behavior that Instagram Explorer has is that after posting a visually appealing photo, frequently checks the app for new likes and comments within minutes. The thought pattern is that if the photo receives fewer likes than expected, Instagram Explorer feels a sense of disappointment, questioning the quality of the content and their own worth. This done repeatedly can weigh on your mental health, especially if every time you post something, if it doesn't get the engagement that you want, or maybe you get negative feedback and things like that, your own self-esteem takes a hit. That's something that's going to build up over time and affect your mental health. So to give you an analogy, let's say your mental health is like a glass window, and every time something happens that affects your mental health, a little rock gets thrown at the window. So there's a little chip, and each time something happens, another rock gets thrown at the window. And then eventually the window is weakened from the constant abuse of the glass, and it shatters. And that's kind of what your mental health looks like from a sense, but from the inside. The next thing I want to explain is what the emotional volatility tied to this looks like in a worst case scenario, and give you a real life example, just so that you have an understanding kind of more in depth about what the thought patterns look like and the behaviors and things like that. We are looking into a scenario from a content creator named Sarah. So Sarah is a social media influencer, built her identity around the validation she receives online. Her content mainly revolves around her physical appearance and lifestyle. One day, she posts a photo she considers particularly empowering, expecting a flood of positive comments and likes. So what Sarah has done in actuality is set herself up for having high expectations that she cannot control, which leads you to potential failure. And because you can't control how other people react and how the content will perform, it starts to perpetuate this cycle of you thinking you're a failure that leads to shame. So Sarah, as it says here, has set high expectations for this post, anticipates a large number of likes and comments. She believes that the success of this post will validate her attractiveness and social standing. So basically what's happening here is that Sarah's self-esteem and confidence purely stems on this post. So how this post performs, Sarah will either feel like she's on top of the world or she will feel like crap. So what it says here is that immediate disappointment. The post does not receive the level of engagement Sarah expected. Instead of hundreds of likes and supportive comments, there's a modest response. So that plunges Sarah's self-esteem and her emotional state takes a nosedive. She begins to question her worth and even the value of her entire online presence. The discrepancy between her expectations and reality intensifies her self-doubt. This is something I have felt when I've posted things where it's like, I think I look super hot and attractive and I really like the photo, and then it doesn't get the engagement that I was hoping for. And then it kind of like sucks for me because I'm like, oh, well, I like worked really hard to do it and I put in all this work, and I think about all the effort and time and the people involved that it took to create the photo, and then when it doesn't get the engagement, part of me is just kind of like, well, why even do it? Like, what's the point? But that's not where my thoughts should be going. I should actually be trying to identify why I'm proud of it for myself, why I like doing it for myself, and kind of separate that from the external factors of what people think about it. So now Sarah needs external reassurance. In an attempt to alleviate her emotional distress, Sarah might engage in impulsive behaviors. She could repost the photo, solicit validation in other ways, and even consider drastic changes to her appearance. The emotional volatility continues as Sarah oscillates between anxiety, despair, and moments of fleeting reassurance if she receives positive feedback from subsequent posts. The impact on mental health. In this worst case scenario, Sarah's emotional well-being becomes closely tied to external validation. Her self-esteem takes a severe hit, and the volatility of her emotions can lead to a cycle of seeking constant reassurance, making her vulnerable to mental health challenges like anxiety and depression. It's important to note that the emotional volatility in this example is heightened due to the extent of Sarah's reliance on external validation. Addressing this pattern would involve developing a more stable sense of self-worth, understanding the limitations of online validation, and cultivating a healthier relationship with social media. So now we know why it's important to address if you're seeking validation or not. Let's look at what it looks like to not do this, and let's look at some strategies on how to reframe our way of thinking. So let's take a look at what ChatGPT says when I ask ChatGPT to give me a scenario of what it looks like for Instagram Explorer to not seek validation from external factors such as likes and compliments online. Rather than linking personal value to the number of likes, Instagram Explorer starts appreciating the creative process itself. They acknowledge that the impact of their content isn't solely measured by external metrics, but also by the authenticity and meaning it brings to themselves and their audience. I'm going to teach you guys how to self-reflect and how to identify certain things about yourself. The prompt I'm going to give you is to tell ChatGPT to act as a career counselor and psychologist with decades of experience in North America that specializes in helping content creators. You're very knowledgeable of the ins and outs of all of the industries mentioned. You will provide advice tailored to the specific things that content creators such as models, social media influencers, and YouTubers encounter. You will be talking to me in a conversational tone when appropriate and providing information as needed when appropriate. Do you understand the instructions? You can tweak it to your own liking and kind of fill in the words how it suits you. The prompt that I'm going to ask ChatGPT is to give me self-reflection questions that I can ask myself to help focus on what I like about my content, what I'm proud of prior to posting it. So it helps steer me away from needing the external validation because I have already determined for myself what I liked about it. Okay, so here are some questions from ChatGPT. Number 1, why did I create this piece of content in the first place? So understanding your initial motivation can help you reconnect with your passion and purpose. This is a really good thing to think about. Whenever I post stuff now, I take a step back sometimes and I think, why did I make this? Why am I posting it? What am I hoping to get out of it? Number 2, what aspects of this content reflect my personal values and authenticity? Identifying the alignment with your values can reinforce a sense of integrity in your work. Number 3, what specific skills or creativity did I showcase in this content? Recognizing your own talents and growth can boost confidence and satisfaction. I like number 5. So number 5 says, in what ways did I challenge myself or try something new in this content? Acknowledging your efforts and pushing boundaries can instill a sense of accomplishment. Did I enjoy the process of creating this content? That's definitely a good question to ask yourself, because I remember for a very long time when I would listen to the gurus and they would tell you to post on social media every day. I had this like crazy posting schedule where I would post 5 days a week, and sometimes I just posted something just to post something. And then it was like, I felt like I wasn't proud of my work, because it was like, okay, I'm just putting whatever out there just to say that I put something out there, and that my name, my Instagram or social media handle pops up on somebody's feed just to pop up on somebody's feed. I didn't feel proud, because sometimes it was like, it wasn't my best work, but I felt obligated. So asking yourself if you enjoyed it is helpful too, because then you can take a step back and be like, am I really creating this out of obligation, or am I actually creating this because I enjoyed making it? The next thing that I want to focus on to take away from needing that external validation is to actually focus on your goals. So I'm going to give you a prompt to put into ChatGPT to help you identify what goals that you want to achieve. I think it's important to understand what your personal goals are when you're on this journey, because again, it's another thing that helps steer away from the validation of others. Because you have personal goals that you've set for yourself, you can be proud of yourself when you hit certain milestones. You don't need anybody else to tell you that you did great and then you should feel proud of yourself. So I'm going to use myself as an example because I do model and I have a YouTube channel. So regarding portfolio diversity, so the self-reflection questions are, how can I diversify my portfolio to showcase versatility? What unique styles or themes have I not explored yet? So for me, for modeling, I have 2 goals. My next short-term goal and challenge is to get more into acrobats and do like acrobatic poses for modeling, because I've done the conventional, poses a million times and I've kind of gotten bored of them and I'm ready for a new challenge. And the reason I want to get into acrobatics is because it's something not everyone can do. To get into acrobatic poses, it requires balance. Some of them require a great deal of strength. To get that strength, that is not something that comes overnight. You have to work out every day. You have to lift weights. You have to eat healthy, take care of your body. And the fact that I do that, to me, tells me that I can be disciplined and I can be determined. And those are good things to feel about myself. And recently, I did a pose where I did a bridge and held up my entire body weight with one arm, and I posed. And I thought that was super cool. I was super proud of myself for doing it, or be able to do it. And those are the things that I can personally be proud of myself for. And I don't need other people to be proud of it for me so that I can feel proud about myself. My long-term goal with modeling is to travel the world. I want to see the world and be able to collaborate with photographers from all over the world and have images of all the scenery from my travels. And that's my long-term goal. With YouTube, my first goal is really figuring out my niche and figuring out what the people in my niche need. And then the next goal after that is to get monetized. In today's video, we learned what seeking validation looks like, why it's bad on your mental health, what it looks like to not seek validation. And we have also learned some tools that you can use to understand how to self-reflect and learn more about yourself. But now that we have all these tools, how do we utilize them? How do we begin the self-development process? Where do we record all of the questions and the answers to the questions when we self-reflect? That is what a self-development journal is for. So in the next video, I will teach you how to make a self-development journal in both Notion and Google Docs. I will teach you how to navigate the journal, And I will also give you templates to download for those journals.